Welcome to the Small Business Collaboration Summit, presented online by Busy.co.
Welcome, John Gordon, to the Small Business Collaboration Summit.
Thank you very much, Miriam.
It's absolutely wonderful to have you here. Thank you very much. Now, you are in Singapore, and you are the founder and CEO of Expat Choice Asia and Choice Media.
Yes.
And you are an expat yourself. You have established yourself and your brand very strongly among the expat community here in Singapore. You're a thinker, you're a doer, a community builder, a digital entrepreneur, a savvy businessman, consulting director, writer, and publisher. So you're a busy man. Now, when an expat arrives and relocates to a new country, it's extremely daunting, and it's almost like you're starting again, trying to establish those professional and social connections and networks.
Yes.
So for entrepreneurs who relocate, I imagine the will to collaborate is actually quite strong because you are coming into a country where you know no one. So really trying to do things alone is really not an option.
Absolutely.
So what has been your experience with collaboration as an expat entrepreneur, and how much has collaboration played a role in your ability to grow your business?
Well, I think it's a wonderful question, and it's one that should be addressed, and that's exactly what this platform is all about. I came to Singapore 12 years ago. I came for 3 months on a contract to train 50 people in sales for a similar business to like a Yellow Pages, where you had the directory and they were moving to online, and then from online into mobile. I worked for the Yellow Pages directory in Australia for 10 years as a national sales director and manager. I dealt with half a dozen high-end accounts that all spent 1.5 million and above per annum. So that's why they brought me to Singapore, basically to take all the information out of my head, pay one person to do the job of many. It's very much, that was the start of my road to becoming an entrepreneur, because I thought, I am making these people so much money and I'm not being paid so much for my skill and my talent, my knowledge, my IP. And the 3 months became 6 months. And then after 6 months, I decided, it was time for me to leave that business. And sorry, just going back one step, I did leave Australia for 3 months intending to go back to work. And I decided, no, I'm here. It's the golden egg. We're in Asia. There was the great financial crisis back in Australia and around the world. But for some reason, this bubble of Singapore didn't seem to get affected. So there was a lot of opportunity, and it was all about collaboration. So once I left the directory business, my first role was as an entrepreneur, going into business with an Indian businessman and building a SMS platform that delivered hundreds of thousands of SMSs across Singapore and Asia before the spamming laws came in. But that was my first collaboration, and it was essential for me to really branch out and start collaborating with this Indian colleague. And I learned a lot about culture, about language, about communication, about interpretation. Something that I learned and something that I take into every meeting these days, like 12 years down the line with my own business. I always stop during a meeting and say, are we on the same page? Am I going too fast? Am I clear with my instructions? Is there something we need to go over before we move forward? So yeah, I've learned a lot. So hopefully that gives you an insight of how it all began.
Now, obviously, that's one collaboration that really your first one coming into Singapore. You've had 10 years here now. What is the collaboration that you're most proud of?
I must say, after all the learnings, it's the collaboration now. It's a multi-tiered collaboration. We have a business model where I deal with a couple of people that are in Romania on a different time zone. I have IT in India. It's only maybe 3-4 hours difference between where the team sits in India and where I am in Singapore. I have one commercial director in Singapore who has a wealth of experience in media and digital. Alex and myself, between us, have about 30 years of experience in media and digital and sales, of course. We have to remember the sales, because without the sales, there's no business. So the collaborations are multi-level. So as I say, Romania, India, here in Singapore. I also have freelancers, so I'm dealing with people's availability to be able to ensure that, you know, timelines are kept when it comes to delivery of content for the platform that I've been building, Expat Choice, here in Singapore. And I do have a couple of external partners, for example, in Australia, that are more like SEO, SEM, retargeting, remarketing, to generate traffic and good quality traffic to the website of expatchoice.ag.
And I think that's a really great insight for all the small business owners that are watching, because sometimes you really feel that you have a vision for your business. You possibly are a solopreneur, or there's just maybe one or two, you know, two people in the business. How are you possibly going to achieve what you're going to achieve when you have such limited resources? And finding those complementary service providers, complementary businesses that have expertise that you don't have, they don't have to be situated in the country you're in, and coordinating this, what you said, this multi-level collaboration to get stuff done far beyond what you can do on your own. So I think it's fantastic to see how you're doing it. And I hope it will encourage the businesses who are watching your interview to think beyond the limitations and actually start to see where they can find those complementary businesses.
Yes, and it is it's a leap of faith. You know, you sometimes you just got to go with your gut feeling. You know, when you're interviewing someone, or you're sussing someone out, as I like to say, the first thing is, if you understand them and they understand you, you're halfway there. You know, often in a collaboration, we expect someone understands my accent, because there's a lot of this going on, but there's a lot of this really going on. And you've really got to work out the language of your collaboration. I've had collaborations where it's all about everything articulated in an email, like absolutely everything, right down to timelines, milestones, debriefing, you know, but all in emails. I actually like that, because it's actually in something that is tangible, and we can go back if there is any discrepancy within the task or the challenge at hand. But then there's other people that like to have the conversation like we're having now, and can interpret everything and say, right, so you're telling me that my task is X, Y, and Z, needs to be delivered by A, B, and C. Yep, we're on the same page. Great. I don't need to send you an email. The email might be just to qualify exactly what the task is and what the agreement is. If there is a financial transaction, there needs to be something, some paper trail. So an email is good enough.
But what it shows is just how important communication is to effective collaboration. And I mean, from what the people we've spoken to, you know, when they've talked about collaborations that haven't gone as well as they thought, it came down to communication. So has there ever been any collaborations that you've been involved with that have actually failed?
Yes, yes, there have been. One scenario being communication, yes, because there was a sense of control freak in the collaboration. So there was the controller and the controlled, and I was being controlled because I was being paid a fee to do a job, and that fee also translated into giving options in the business. So I received 20% of a business. I received a decent monthly wage, because in Singapore you need to be employed, you need to have a special pass called the employment pass. So you need to justify your income, you need to pay your taxes. So the deal was, you'll get paid X amount, we'll give you 20% of the business, but basically you'll do everything and build the business for the rest of your life. And we will own you. And you know, I was happy to do that, because, you know, I agreed to that. And, you know, the breakdown in that particular collaboration was there were things I started to disagree with, and so therefore there were arguments in meeting rooms, and it was about business philosophies, because the person that I was dealing with came from a very corporate background, where everything was done by SOPs and tried and tested with hundreds of people within an office, where you can't take that approach to business when there's two of you building a new business in a country that either of you are not from as natives.
Mm.
So
and that actually, that's very, when you talked about that philosophy of business, that before you really go into a collaboration with someone, you have to make sure, as you said, you're on the right page, but you have a same style, you have the same values when it comes to being in business and running a business, and doing all of that up front, and possibly not letting enthusiasm or necessity carry you to a point where you've entered into some type of collaboration or some more formal partnership like you had, with unsteady foundations.
Yes, yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, because in that collaboration, yes, I was enthusiastic. Yes, I was given a percentage of the business to give me an incentive. And I'm a hard worker, and I have a huge amount of diverse skills. And so I was able to use all of my skills. But yeah, where that collaboration broke down, it was the communication. We didn't sit down and set out our objectives from the start. And also we didn't understand, where we were going, like what was the journey that we as two shareholders of a business were going. We didn't even have that mapped out. It was sort of like, let's just throw it all up in the air. So let's see what happens, we'll get some customers, we'll build some more website sort of structure, and we'll look at it in 6 months. No, it doesn't work like that. It needs to be something that you look at every day, every week, every month, reassess, recalibrate. Be on the same page. If you're not on the same page, get back on the same page. Go out for a coffee, go out for lunch, go out for a couple of beers, relax a little bit, get to know each other a little bit more. That wasn't happening in that collaboration. The socialness of the collaboration wasn't there at all. It was pretty much, I come to work, I do my job, I leave. And then when I leave, I still do my job until 1 o'clock in the morning and start all over again at 6 a.m. after 5 hours sleep. Yeah. But of course, none of that's acknowledged. None of that is rewarded. But, it was a part of not knowing the limitations of the expectation within that failed collaboration.
And it also shows the importance of having those social relationships and having that outside of work opportunity to really build up that familiarity, that relationship, and that alignment.
Yes.
When you do go to do business with other people. So it's really, really practical.
It is, and look at
practical.
And a really good scenario is, a lot of people have come from a corporate background into an entrepreneur, one-on-one or one and maybe many collaborations. But normally when you move from corporate into self-employment, entrepreneur, expatpreneur, you do take your learnings from corporate, and you've still got to understand that a big motivator in corporate is about employee engagement. And whether there's just one of you, like when I first started, my role, founding or the founder of Expat Choice, it was just me. But I had to take myself on those social excursions. I needed to remind myself that I was employing myself in my business, so I need to look after my engagement so that I wasn't like just eating up all of my enthusiasm and then getting to a point where I was exhausted. So I actually have never burnt out. I can say I've never burnt out in business because I address my own social needs, and I make sure that I get that social connection, and people can give you feedback even if you are on your own. And it's okay to ask people, hey, how do you think I'm going with my business? Have you been online and looked at the new shop? Have you looked at any of the articles that we've posted over the last few weeks? Hey, great, can you have a look, maybe give me some feedback? I mean, it's okay to ask, you need to. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we really are trying to emphasize in Busy. One, don't do it alone.
No.
Two, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask and let other businesses support you. And it's all about that strength in number and that strength in numbers and that the cushioning of the support of other small businesses, because it's a lonely, exhausting road. But you don't need to be doing it alone.
No. And like at the moment in my current structure, we're sort of on the the verge of going into attracting investors, and we're really at that point where we want to scale our business. So you need to sort of have all the ducks in a row. It's like you can't just expect that it's going to happen. So I have a great support group of people now after working on Choice Media and Expat Choice now for nearly 3 years, and it's only now that I feel that things are really falling into shape. We've got 25,000 unique visitors coming every 30 days, and that's growing by about 10, 15, 20% per month. I mean, it's quite amazing. But that's due to certain influencers, like we've introduced video, for example. So the video is more engaging, people are staying on longer, et cetera, et cetera. But also like the collaborations that I've got with people who are advisors, advisors to government grants. One was to get, an investment from an investor, a cash injection. You want to then optimize that cash injection by seeing what's available within the Singapore government, system for new business, tech development, startups, etc. I don't know all that information. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't really want to know all that information because I've got so many other bits of information I need to be thinking about. So I've now found someone through the network, and we've been through different channels, and now I actually have a company that specializes in working with startups, and they do all the applications, and they really drive the whole possibility of getting government support to invest in more tech future technologies. And so I couldn't do that on my own, for example. And I've got other collaborations that I'm working with at the moment where people are experts in their fields, and they advise me on what I can be doing and what I could be doing. I've just started working with a new collaboration, someone in the artificial intelligence area, something that I really didn't know anything about, but I'm quite fascinated by it. And it's one area that I really do want to know about, because in my lifetime, I do feel there's going to be a lot more AI bot technology, like moving away from apps, moving away from web-based technologies. It's incredibly exciting, but it's a collaboration, and it's only come from other collaborations. So the longer you put off collaborating, the longer it's going to be before you start opening up that network and getting opportunities like knocking at your door. You wouldn't even realize, what is around the corner until you start collaborating.
That has come through very strongly from everyone we've spoken to, that if you can just start by proving yourself and your business as a provider of quality service, it will get recognized. And then slowly you'll get a bigger opportunity, and more people will want to collaborate with you because you have established that reputation for professionalism and trust. And it snowballs, collaboration snowballs. And, we've had examples of businesses who are now collaborating with, the likes of IBM and Microsoft and, these enormous players in the space of a short amount of time because they started collaborating, they were courageous. And I know that being courageous is something that's very much a mantra for you. And for, when I asked a number of the entrepreneurs that we've interviewed about, what is it that made you, get that big deal? They said they just had the courage to even ask, will you be my mentor? Can I ask you a question? Asking people for help.
Yes.
That's how it started. And so if you keep everything to yourself, you're going to go nowhere. And so you just have to throw open what you're doing, your vision, and let other people support you and open doors. And obviously putting a lot of effort into relationship building and education. You want to find out about AI. You know that there's gaps in your knowledge that will help your business grow. You have to take responsibility as a small business owner to get that knowledge. No one else is going
Yes.
to do it for you, right?
No one's going to do it for you. You got to get out of bed in the morning and you got to go, let's make this happen.
Absolutely. So you've been involved now. You've got a number of collaborations across countries, in Singapore, across industries, which is interesting as well.
Yes.
For you, what have been the key elements that have ensured your successful and sustainable collaboration strategy for your business? Like, what has been the elements?
Well, I suppose the number one element is really setting clear objectives. I think that's my number one. You know, if everyone's on the same page from the start, whether it's one or two or one or many, understanding the key objectives of the project before even embarking on the journey. I think that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. I think the second one would be to really think about understanding what the project's challenges may be, like before embarking again on the journey. What are the challenges? Maybe what are potentially the threats? Within a collaboration, I think it's always good to go back to, you know, the golden rule of, you know, looking at, you know, the strengths of the people, the weaknesses, the opportunities, okay, and again, the threats. So, you know, doing that SWOT analysis, which is a very old business framework for, you know, business development. But I think this is very important, that I found that the strengths and sustainability of these wonderful collaborations that I'm involved with now. It's, you know, I worked with someone, I am working with two people, as I mentioned earlier, in Romania. I was lucky enough earlier in 2018 to visit Hungary. And while I was in Hungary, I thought, well, I'll go to Romania and I'll meet these people that I've been collaborating with for like 24 months. And these people have been a voice on Skype. There was only one video call in 2 years, but most of it's been on email, because we established that they like the instructions to come in email, because the written language is great, but the spoken language is not so good. So I went and I met these people, and it was the best thing I could have ever done. The amount of work that we've achieved since coming back in the last 3 or 4 months in doing documents and investor dossiers and doing artwork for clients. And it's just understanding just from saying, I'm in a hurry. And that means I need it yesterday, not in a week. So that collaboration is really based on understanding the project's challenges and looking at a SWOT analysis. I think a great word of advice when it comes to sustainability, it's like, set a timeline. You know, like it may not be a realistic timeline, because what I like to do is have a regular catch up. So I like to have a catch up once a week with everyone, no matter whether there's a project going or not, just to make sure that, they've got holidays coming up, or they're going to be traveling and they're not contactable, and it's going to happen in 2 months' time. And so you're really across like all your different collaborations. And as I say, at the moment, I've got let's say I've got half a dozen that I need to manage. So I need a timeline to understand who's going to be available for me at any one time. I mean, anything could happen. Today, I actually got confirmation for a wonderful advertising program for a new telco that's coming into Singapore. They want to get the program up and running like pretty much immediately. We need to organize artwork. I need to organize copy and content from a copywriter. I need to allocate time to generate customized articles, activations, and even do some videoing of quasi-commercials for them. So all this just came in today. So now I need to go out to my collaborators and understand who can fulfill my tasks, and I know what they can do, so I can allocate and I can delegate, and I can make sure I can get the project up and running in the shortest time possible, because I don't want this program to take a month to go live. I want it to take a week, because I want to start billing next week, not next month. So I think there's a few strengths and sort of things that help sustain the collaboration: timelines, milestones, checking in, understanding that everyone's talking the same language. This is resonating in our conversation, so it's nothing new. I love the word recalibrate. I think it's okay to say, look, this is not working, guys. Let's recalibrate our timeline. Let's recalibrate our expectations. If you can't get the objective done, tell me now, because then we can work on a plan B. So recalibrating, and I think a really great thing to finish off with when it comes to sustainability within a relationship, it's like have a debrief. Like when you're done and you're really happy, don't just say, hey, I'm really happy with it. Like sit down, set up an open, conversation like this with as many stakeholders within the collaboration, and do a debrief, because you're always going to learn something from that debrief. And the next project that comes along, you can start to instigate some of the learnings from the debrief from the last collaboration. So it's going to be a perpetual learning cycle when it comes to collaborating. It just never stops.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, John. So many practical insights for the people watching your interview that they can actually take away now and start to implement. And, what comes through, is not just relationships, but it's a level of organization and focus, clarity, coordination.
Yes.
And just staying on top of not only the vision, but the implementation, because you want to have an outcome that is successful, so that you had a negative experience with collaboration, but it didn't stop you collaborating. So we don't want people to feel burnt that what was wrong with it was not the essence of collaboration. It was the implementation of it, and the foundations of it being set up. So, and as you said, collaboration breeds collaboration. It breeds bigger business. And, now you're on the verge of scaling in 3 short years. And, obviously, I'd love to chat to you next year and you see how that's progressed.
Hopefully somewhere.
You're locked in for Small Business Collaboration Summit 2019.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll be happy to share. I've got a good outlook on the future. Just one thing I did want to say about collaborations is sometimes in a small to medium enterprise, which I am, I mean, we don't even turn over 500,000 K yet, but that's a lot of money for a lot of small businesses. But it's okay to have those days where you just think, just go and have a foot massage. Just go and have a foot massage, and or go for a walk and smell the roses, and then come back in reinvigorated, and you'll get twice as much done. Don't go pushing. Never push at what you're doing. Let the collaborations work for you, and sometimes go for that walk. Go and have a coffee. Just take half a day out, and then get back to it with a vengeance.
Check out the rest of the Small Business Summit interviews with business collaboration trailblazers from all over the world. Make sure you share this event with your network to spread the insight and knowledge of the emerging business collaboration paradigm. Brought to you by Busy.co, where the world's small businesses come to collaborate. Take the knowledge and insights gained from these interviews and start collaborating on Busy.